Welcome to the dark side of stories, the ones you'll never forget. The rain wasn't falling, it was attacking. A solid, unforgiving wall of water that turned the two-lane highway into a murky, gray oblivion. My wipers, set to their frantic max, fought a losing battle, squealing in protest as they smeared the water across the windshield. I was lost, utterly and completely. My phone had lost signal an hour ago, the GPS freezing on a cheerful blue line that bore no relation to the twisting black ribbon I was now on. That's when I saw it. A flicker of light through the torrential downpour. A neon sign, bleeding a pale, sickly pink into the gloom. It buzzed and sputtered, the letters stammering. VCNCY. Vacancy. Relief, thick and sweet, flooded my veins. I didn't care about the place's charm. I cared about its roof. I guided my car off the road and onto a gravel drive that crunched like bone meal under my tires. The motel was a single-story, L-shaped structure, the kind of place time forgot. The paint was peeling, revealing the gray, cancerous wood beneath. Each door was the identical slab of faded green, and a single yellow bug light above the office door did little to push back the oppressive darkness. The man behind the counter didn't look up when the tinny bell above the door announced my entrance. He was ancient, his skin a road map of wrinkles, his eyes milky with cataracts. He simply slid a dusty ledger toward me without a word. The air was thick with the smell of dust, mildew, and something else. Something metallic and coppery, faint but unmistakable. "Just for the night," I said, my voice too loud in the tomb-like silence. He grunted, his gnarled fingers pointing to a line for me to sign. The pen felt greasy. "Room 11, he rasped, sliding a heavy tarnished key across the counter. His fingernails were long and yellowed. "Cash only. No refunds." I paid and hurried out, the key cold and heavy in my palm. Room 11 was at the very end of the row, tucked into the corner farthest from the road. The lock protested with a screech of rusty tumblers, but it turned. The room inside was a museum of neglect. A musty odor hit me first, the smell of wet earth and decay. The floral wallpaper was stained and curling at the seams. The bedspread was a garish orange and brown pattern, threadbare in places. And it was cold. A damp, penetrating cold that the grumbling wall heater did nothing to alleviate. I tried to sleep, but the silence was wrong. It wasn't peaceful. It was watchful. The rain had softened to a drizzle, and in the quiet, I became aware of other sounds. The faint scuttling of something in the walls, the drip, drip, drip from the bathroom sink. And then, another sound. A low, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat. I sat up in bed, my own heart hammering against my ribs. It was coming from the other side of the wall. Room 12. Thump, thump, thump. It was too steady, too organic to be a machine. I pressed my ear to the cold, floral-papered wall. The sound was clearer now, a dull, wet pounding. And then, a new sound joined it. A whisper. It was so faint I thought I'd imagined it. A sibilant, rasping stream of words, too low to make out. I held my breath, my ear glued to the wall. The whisper grew slightly louder, more urgent. It wasn't one voice. It was two. A man and a woman, hissing at each other in a furious, hate-filled argument. I couldn't distinguish the words, but the tone was pure venom. A floorboard creaked directly above me. I froze. This was a single-story motel. There was no upstairs. The arguing next door ceased abruptly. The thumping stopped. The silence that followed was heavier, more menacing than the noises themselves. My eyes were fixed on the water-stained ceiling. Another creak, this one right over the bed. It was the sound of weight being carefully, deliberately shifted. Something was in the room with me. I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it breathe. But I could feel it. A presence, vast and hungry, hanging in the air just beyond the foot of the bed. The temperature plummeted. My breath misted in front of my face. The damp cold seeping from the walls was now an Arctic freeze, a cold that spoke of the grave. A pressure began to build in the room, a suffocating weight on my chest. I tried to scream, but my voice was gone, stolen by the paralyzing terror that held me pinned to the mattress. I could only lie there, my eyes wide, straining into the absolute blackness, feeling it watching me, feeling its ancient, malicious curiosity. Then, the whispering started again. But this time, it wasn't coming from next door. It was in my head. 1,000 vile, slithering thoughts that weren't my own, pouring into my mind like sewage. Images flashed behind my eyes. Blood on green paint. Things buried in shallow graves. The old man's yellow-toothed smile. This place was a trap. A hungry place. It didn't just host horrors. It curated them, fed on them, and saved them up for the next lost soul who saw a flickering vacancy sign. The presence leaned closer. I could smell it now. The dry rot of a long-closed tomb. The iron tang of old blood. A faint shimmer in the darkness began to take shape. A terrible, undefined outline of something that should not be. That was enough. Some primal instinct of self-preservation overrode the paralysis. I threw myself from the bed, scrambling on cold, rough carpet towards the door. I didn't grab my bag, my wallet, nothing. My only thought was the key, still in the lock. I yanked the door open and exploded out into the wet night. I didn't look back. I sprinted to my car, my fingers fumbling, numb with cold and fear, finally finding the keys in my pocket. The engine roared to life. I slammed it into reverse and then drive, spinning the wheel and speeding down the gravel drive, spraying stones behind me. I didn't slow down until the pink neon glow was miles behind me in the rearview mirror. The sun was just beginning to bleed into the horizon. I never went back for my things. I never told the police. What would I say? I paid a man who may or may not have been a corpse for a room that listened, a room that remembered. Sometimes, in the dead of night, if my house is too quiet, I think I hear it. Not the arguing, not the thumping, but the silence that comes after. The attentive, hungry silence of something old and patient, waiting behind a peeling green door with a vacancy sign lit, waiting for the next lost traveler to make a terrible, desperate mistake.